Hi, my name is Wendy Hayden. I'm with Natural Constipation Solutions, and I'm the author of the book, What Your Doctor Didn't Tell You About Childhood Constipation. And today we're going to talk about the Bristol Stool Chart and how to use it. So the Bristol Stool Chart was developed in hospitals so they were able to track patients' bowel movements and try to figure out, if they're constipated, what they need to do. So what you're looking at on the Bristol Stool Chart, and yeah, I ordered one off Amazon, and my child does think I'm strange. So the Bristol Stool Chart has the types of stool from type 1 down to type 7. So type 1 is some pretty serious constipation. If you are passing a stool that looks kind of like rabbit pellets, hard little balls, this is pretty serious constipation, and you definitely need to intervene to get relief and make things easier to pass. Type 2 is the sausage-like stool. It's coming out in one piece, but you can kind of see all those little hard balls that are in it, and they're all kind of fused together in a big lump that's hard to pass, and they can be painful. Type 3 is like a sausage, but it's kind of dried out and has cracks in the surface. And this is still a sign of constipation, but this is one that is more acceptable. But it's going to be larger, it's going to be hard to pass, and it's really something that you probably want to avoid, especially if you're dealing with chronic constipation in a child. These are going to hurt to pass, and that can lead to things like withholding and potty accidents and stuff like that. So ideal stool is this type 4. And type 4 is going to be smooth. It may be relatively long, but it is going to be a smaller diameter. It's going to be easy to pass. There's not going to be any pain. There's no cracks on the surface. It's not dried out. If you get to type 5, this is still acceptable stool to be passing. And it's soft edges. It kind of breaks up when it is in the water on the toilet. Type 6 is very loose. You're going to have kind of shaggy edges that are very, very soft, almost to the point of not being able to make it to the bathroom sometimes. But it's very easy to pass, painless to pass. And if you get to type 7 is basically diarrhea. And sometimes that can be a goal. So if you're working on a clean out, you're going to want to be passing 6s and 7s at a point to make sure that you're getting out most of the stool. But you can also have a type 7 because you're so constipated, or your child's so constipated, that the hard stool is actually getting really dried out higher up in your intestines, and it's making it hard for other solid stools to pass. And so what you have is you have liquid stool that overflows around that hard ball of stool, and it comes out. So you may think that you are actually having diarrhea, when the reality is that you have overflow stool that is not in the intestines long enough for the liquid to be absorbed out of it. And that overflow stool looks like you're having bowel movements. And it may even be more of a 5 or a 6. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 7, but it is coming around that hard stool and passing. So if you are facilitating between those two things, that is something to look at. If you know you've had chronic constipation and now you just have liquid stool or very, very loose stool, but you still feel bloated and constipated, it could be that what you're seeing is that overflow stool. So the goal stools are really, the 4 and 5 to 6 even. If you start to get to 3, this is the time to take magnesium or coconut oil or something else to help make it easier to pass that stool. And if you're dealing with a child who is withholding, you're going to want it to probably be often in the 6 to 7 range. So it's so easy to pass, and they really have struggled to hold it in until you start working on the withholding. And I have a video on withholding that I will link to down in the description, and you can watch that if that is something that you're dealing with. You can also be getting that overflow 6 and 7 stool in kids that are having potty accidents. So if your child is having encopresis, it may be that what they're doing is they're passing the 6 and 7 because they have that hard, lumpy bowel movement that's stuck high up into their intestines. And what they're actually having accidents with is that liquidy stool that is seeping around the edges of that and coming out and coming, and they're not able to control it. They may not even feel it. Some kids that are in that situation don't even feel it. So that's the Bristol Stool Chart, kind of how to use it. So what they mean often is that it's kind of how long the stool is in the intestines that makes this happen. So if you are eating something and it's quickly coming through your digestive system and coming out, then the digestive system doesn't necessarily have enough time to absorb the fluids out of the bowel movement. And that's when you're going to get these softer, looser stools. But if your stool is in your intestines for days, or in some cases even a week or more, it's going to keep absorbing all the water out of that stool. And it's going to get harder and harder and harder, and it's going to get hard to pass. And that's when you're at risk for things like hemorrhoids and fissures. So it is really, really important that if you start seeing yourself inching up this graph, or your child inching up, that you want to take an intervention. And I have lots of videos with things that can help, from magnesium to vitamin C to senna, coconut oil. There's lots of natural things that you can use. I would not use Miralax. My son had significant injuries from Miralax that took us years to recover from. And there are over, I think it's 36,000 reports right now of adverse events related to Miralax. Miralax is not approved for any children under the age of 17, and it's not approved for use in anyone for more than 7 days. So if your doctor is recommending that you're on this long term, or that you give this to a child or even an infant, then it's probably time to find another doctor, because you want a doctor that's going to help you to figure out why you've got this chronic constipation and give you things that will help you, that are natural and are not going to cause significant side effects. So I hope this video has been helpful for you, and that this is some information that you can use to kind of gauge where you are and what you need to do to be able to overcome your or your child's chronic constipation using the Bristol Stool Chart.